Welcome back, guys, to Build a Bronco. Today we have
Miss Mata.
Miss Mata and
Mrs. Skyles.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. How was the trip going over to here?
Very hot because the weather outside is like about 80 degrees, not normal for a March, or I'm sorry, February, end of February, March. So, but I hear the rain's coming next week.
Yeah, me and
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, me and Johnny are weirdos wearing sweaters right now.
Yeah.
My outfit's bipolar incarnate. So.
Oh, it's stuck to your body.
I got the shorts and the sweater.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
I just don't feel temperature.
Oh,
that's concerning.
It is.
Go to the hospital.
I lived in Montana for 7 years. I was used to extreme cold and extreme hot.
Yeah.
With mosquitoes.
I would love to live in Montana. We'll have to talk another day about that. Whole nother episode. Another episode.
Well, that's one of the questions we can ask.
Right. So, thank you. What was your journey like from childhood to becoming a teacher here?
Actually, my childhood journey. So when I was very young, I wanted to be a truck driver. I loved the trucks.
Really?
Like, yeah, big rig truck driver. I knew all of them. I loved the lights on them. I wanted to travel, and there's a lot of TV shows around like trucking. So as I got older, like middle school, I started to be more like about, girls are into clothing. Yeah. I wanted to be a clothing designer. Mm-hmm. And then as I kind of pursued more like drafting classes in high school, I looked into architecture. And so I took a lot of those classes like in architecture and drafting in college. And I loved it. It was like a dream come true. And so I was actually starting to become my goal was to be to go to Cal Poly Pomona because they have one of the best architectural schools back then. And when I finished my junior college, and let me kind of go back a little bit. My junior college was so old. Yes, I'm that old. They were introducing, like when I left, CAD, which is computer aided drafting, which is like what they use now, those kinds of systems where it's all, you could even do it now with all the technology. And my professor was like, can you stay another year? Because I know you'll be good at this. I was like, no, I want to transfer to Cal Poly Pomona. But because it was a high impacted major, they said it'll be 2 years before you actually like start a class in that major. I was like, oh, forget that.
Yeah.
So I just ended up working. Like I worked at the grocery store, I worked for Ralph's, and I just was there, being a cashier, working at night, and then we had a huge strike. Okay, so like we're talking about a 6-month strike, yes.
So
and
what reason?
What was the reason? Well, because grocery companies, they're more about profits and things like that. They don't really care about the worker. And I had been with them for for about 18 years, and never in my life have I ever like heard the union president or the union representative say you should start saving money. And so when he said that, I realized it was going to be bad, and sure enough, we were like out on strike. A lot of people lost their homes, their cars. I wasn't in that situation, so I was very fortunate for that. But at that time, I was like, you know what? I think I want to be like something else, because it's like your job security was not there.
Yeah.
And during that time, I would always help tutor the students in the neighborhood. Like I'm not students. I say the neighborhood kids. I even bought a whiteboard in my kitchen. And oh my God, yes. And because I had a lot of math background, from my college, my junior college, and also, I love math all my life. And so all the kids would say, you're such a good teacher, you should be a teacher. And I was like, I never even thought about it, right? Because really, I wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
Well, and sure enough, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back. And so I went to Azusa Pacific University, and they had like an informational night. And the lady looked over my credentials, my transcripts, and she said, you only need one more class to finish, which was a Spanish class, which I failed. And you want to know, this English is my second language, by the way. So English is my second language. My parents both are from Mexico, and so I grew up learning English in the school. And so, and it's so funny because the reason I failed that class was because I was always late. Okay, I was always late, and the teacher, he would mark me late, dock points, and shut the door.
Aw.
But I wasn't late because I woke up late. I was late because I had to wake up and take my sister to school. My mom, because I was driving, she expected me to take her to school and then come back, go to my college, which traffic was bad back then. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to go that way. But anyway, so I ended up failing it. So when I had to take that one class over the summer so that I could start the APU program, I took like the easiest Spanish class, obviously got an A, but I was like, but that teacher really hit me. Like that teacher really stuck out with me as I began my teaching career. I kept thinking about like grace, and I think that's one of the best qualities teachers can show their kids, and I think about that event, and then also one of my other teachers, well, you kind of said that in the other question, but so anyways, let me go back to what I was going to say. So I ended up finishing my APU program, and during that time, it was crazy time because, I was working graveyard, going to school at night. Like I'd go to school at night, go work graveyard, come back in the morning, like sleep for like a few hours, get up and do my homework. I literally lost my gallbladder because I was eating bad, like, I was eating junk food, like in fast food drive-through. It was bad for those like 2 years, and then guess what? I'll never do it again. But you kind of push yourself through it. It's like rough times, but you do it. And so that was my journey to becoming a teacher. So I finally finished my credential, and then when I came back and started here, is it here in Banning? You want to see? Okay. So then I was actually subbing in Moreno Valley Unified School District and also like Valverde School District. And I really liked it, and remember, I was working at the grocery store and subbing, and so I was like, I kind of didn't want to get rid of that. Anyways, and then I ended up going to, someone came and told me to come and apply for Banning Unified School District because I was living in Banning. And that's when I applied to be a sub, and that's how I started my job here in Banning. So, and it's been about 18 years. So, and 18? I love it. Yes, yes. Dang. And I love teaching. So this has been like the easiest job of my life. So
that was like the perfect plot to a TV show. Like TV shows like Everybody Hates Chris or Young Sheldon. That was the perfect plot.
Right.
That was really good.
Thank you. It was a journey, but we made it.
All right. What about you?
So when I was like between second and third grade, I fell in love with books. And I have a lot of fond memories of like reading with my parents when I was really young. I just fell in love with reading, and I just thought it was so fascinating that you could open a book, and no matter how terrible of a day you were having, you could go somewhere else and like live in that little world for a little while and use your imagination and then come back to whatever else you were dealing with. And I just had this love of reading, and I would like devour books. From the time I was about like 9 to the time I moved out of my parents' house, go to bed meant go to your bed, but it did not mean necessarily turn out the light. And most of the time I only got in trouble if I wouldn't wake up in the morning or if I forgot to turn the light off and I slept with the light on. But I would read for hours into the night, and my parents were pretty supportive of that. They also kind of knew like sending me to my room was a questionable punishment because they wouldn't like not let me bring a book there. So that was something. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do for a job until I was about 15. I remember being 14 and being like, okay, I have to do a project about what I want to do when I grow up. But I'm 14 and I have no idea what I want to do when I grow up. So I did a project about going to chiropractic school because I grew up, my dad's a chiropractor. And then when I was 15, I just had this realization, like, I want to be an English teacher because I love books so much. I want to share that passion and love with other people because I was aware that not everybody loved reading as much as I did. Yeah. So that was the trajectory that I put myself on. I went to college. I went to BYU, Idaho. They have a program for English education. So I was studying education since I went to college. I graduated college in kind of a hard time to be a teacher. I graduated college in 2010, and we were in a housing crisis at that time, and teachers were getting laid off. So I came back, I did all my teacher tests to get my credential transferred to the state of California, and then in 2012, I moved from Riverside County to Salinas Monterey County and got my first teaching job in Salinas because there just were not jobs down here. So I was in Salinas for a year, and that really opened my eyes to how hard a career teaching can be, because I realized, like, not everybody loves reading as much as I do. And I kind of knew that, but I was like, oh, dang, it's really hard to teach kids who are 14 and have decided, no, I do not like this.
Yeah.
And then seeing what a vast, teaching has really enabled me to really kind of experience a lot of different lives, because you come in and you have 160 students, and each of those students has a completely different life, and you learn a lot about students if you listen. And so I've just realized, like, wow, a lot of our students have stories to tell. They have a lot of experiences that are really valuable. But I was only teaching in Salinas for a year. I came back. I did some short-term work in Moreno Valley teaching. Then I worked in Hemet, and I've worked a lot of places in California. I taught in Hemet for a year, and that wasn't. I found out that was not a great fit for me, and so then I worked for a charter school, and that charter school, in 2 years, I worked in Moreno Valley. Then I worked in Watts in South Central LA for 6 months, and then I work in Rancho Cucamonga. And so I had a lot of different experience seeing just kind of how different communities are set up and how the school system. I was working with students in high school at that point from ages 16 to 24. So a lot of students had gotten really behind in their credits. And they were so behind that they needed to seek another place where they could recover some of their credits more quickly. So I worked with students who the traditional schooling system was just not working for them, and we provided a place for them to do all of their elective credits as job skill training.
That's cool.
And
That's
then their core credits, they worked with teachers like me to earn their credits that way. And so that really kind of opened my eyes that providing a lot of different options not only can just be the place of charter schools, but can be the place of our greater educational system as a whole. After that job, I actually applied for a job in Banning at Nicollet Middle School. I was really nervous to teach at a middle school because I had done that in my 20s, and I swore, I was like, I'm never going to go back to middle school. It's so hard. It's so different.
Of kids.
And I had done high school for like 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
But I was like, it's okay. I can do middle school. I can do anything for 5 months. I've done all these crazy things. I can do anything for 5 months. And then I fell in love with teaching at Nicollet and teaching in Banning. And so then I was able to transition to an English learner support position, where I do teacher support and support for the English learner program, which is something I'm really passionate about. And that's why my offices are now at Banning High School, and now I do support for all of the schools in Banning. And so that's kind of why I'm here, and I really, there's so much to love about the community of Banning and the students here that this is where I'm happy to stay for, I think, quite a while.
Yeah, and I think like Mr. Davis mentioned, like at the beginning of the year, we have a theme every year, like the school district, and I don't know if you guys are familiar, it's called We Are Banning. Have you heard that? Like, and so like we have shirts that made, like they gave all the district shirts that say We Are Banning. And so that's our focus for this school year for like everybody. And they kind of pointed out like how we're all tied together, like whether you're a cafeteria worker, teacher, custodial, it doesn't matter. We're all connected with the students. And they had students talk, they had everybody talk at the beginning, and it was pretty cool. And so I think, like Rachel said, like we're all kind of interwoven into one thing, and I think that's what made us stay here. Banning is small, and kids are genuine. And I think that's the thing that, like, I'm just hearing her conversation. Like, we talked about it yesterday, like what our beginnings were. Like, a lot of it's like we had faith that would take us here, like God, would lead us the way, right? And so it's just kind of like we know it's right because it's so easy. Like the path is there. And so I thought, I know we're in the right spot.
I keep hearing too that the kids here are different from when you'd work at any other place
Right.
with other kids.
Yes, I think if I can describe Banning students, they're very genuine. They don't look at you like and judge you.
Yeah.
They just see you for who you are, and they know people have hearts. I know we have fights at school, but like honestly, like there's schools that like you should be afraid to walk down the hallway, but I don't see that here. Like where even, and I get people get drama between each other, but I'm talking about like just a normal kid walking down and being afraid to walk down the hallway. And I don't see that here. I think our kids, I would share a story, but I'm afraid to share a story. But one of my teachers, or it was one of my first years teaching, we had a student that like didn't smell right, and one of my students in class, like they were cool. The kids were cool in the class, like, and that's what that kind of really touched my heart, is that they didn't make fun of him, they didn't say anything to him, but they're like, one day they came after class and said, "Hey, Miss Mata, like this student, like we can't take it anymore," and it was obvious, like we could like smell it in the classroom. And then we found out, like, so I reached out to the counseling and let them know, like, hey, there's a student that might be in need, and they totally reached out to the family, and they learned that they didn't have water at home, and I was like, we don't think about that, like as teachers or even students, fellow students, but I totally respected that the kids didn't make fun of them, and that the student's needs were met. And I didn't know, because it was like my first year teaching. I didn't know anything about that, but that helped me grow as a teacher to know that there's resources out there and that it's okay to address those for our students. And so that's one of the benefits of teaching our kids. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a cool story, and it was our kids that, just they care about each other, even if you're not friends. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel most of that's probably because of all the community building the school does. Is it like you would think, like it sounds like kind of cringy at first, but when you actually are there, it's really effective.
Yes.
Like especially during pep rallies, I'm like, oh, another pep rally. And then when I go to a pep rally, I'm like, yeah,
you cannot let those freshmen win. No way. You guys
exactly. It's like, oh, I don't care who wins. Go senior.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And and I don't know much about high school, because like Rachel, I was at Nicollet most of my years of teaching here in Banning. But like one of the things like from my high school was pep rallies. Like we had a pep rally every Friday for like football season and basketball season. We cheered the players on, like everybody got dressed up. And then I'm like, why can't we have pep rallies here, like for the football players, like every Friday? Like I'm all, and then they're like telling me, because I'm a coach too, TOSA, but and they're like, oh, instructional minutes. I'm like, what the heck is instructional minutes? I'm like, we need a pep rally, like school spirit, and that pep rallies build that school spirit, like what you mentioned. And I think that's one of the key factors of a high school, is building that school spirit. And like it could be something as simple as a shirt, like if I could wear a fancy shirt, that's my job, I could wear that, but you know what, I'm here, I'm repping Banning High, man. Yes. So anyways, go ahead. Next question.
Well, if you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
One word for myself, I would probably pick perseverance. And I think it's because whatever happens in my life, I work hard to overcome it. And I don't let little things push me down. Like I find things as a challenge, and I rise above them. I spoke earlier about my parents being Spanish speakers. Like, so I would go home, my parents, I would have to translate for them. My parents, they eventually learned English, but not until like we were like in high school, but so we would translate. I remember I wrote my dad's retirement speech for him. Right. And so, yeah, it was pretty crazy because, he didn't want to be embarrassed with his broken English. So he wanted to have something, because, he's in the group with like administrators in there. But, and so those are the things that, like I, as being an English learner, that just knowing that it's hard, for kids. And I think overcoming that in school was hard because, again, they didn't have ELD classes back then. So it was like everything straight English. And then after that, like things in my life, whether it's like personal things, like I got cancer. I had cancer one time during teaching, and my students helped me through this. Like a lot of the students, I had one student, like I was doing ASB during that time, and it was like I was tired. I lost my hair, all of that. The kids, and some of the kids, well, I don't know if a lot of the kids here know that, but I know like some of the graduating classes do remember the time when I was bald, and I was coming to school and doing my treatments, and they were very supportive of that, and they were just like, and one kid, I remember when I lost my hair, because we had to shave it, because obviously I was like afraid, because I like wearing a bun, that the chunk was going to fall off when I was teaching. So we just ended up shaving it, and I wore like a beanie because I was so self-conscious. And one kid, and he didn't know, he goes, "Why are you wearing that hat?" And then the other kid goes, "Shut up!" Like, and he was like, kind of nudged him. He's like, "Shut up!" He's like, "She's got cancer," and then like, and everybody's like, but one of my students, like for ASB, she was every time I turned around, like she'd be there, like it was like a little angel behind me, because I'd be like, "Where's this at?" And she'd be like, "It's right here." I'm like, "Thank you," but I got the letters sent home, like the teachers would come to my school. I'm sorry, my house. And have letters, and I'd post them on my wall, like when I had treatment. It was just an awesome time. Like, it was like physically bad, but I just realized how much I was loved by the Banning students and Banning teachers. I was very, very supported. So, yep.
Nice.
What's your one word,
Yeah.
Rachel?
My one word, I think would be fascinated. I may not be an interesting person, but I'm a person interested in a lot of things.
Beg to
And
differ. Very interesting person. Beg to differ. Very
But that was something, and when I started teaching, that was something my students would be like, "Oh my gosh, why are you so into this?" When I was teaching Romeo and Juliet, and I'd be like acting out the sword play and like waving my hand over my head.
That sounds awesome.
I had I kind of had a personal goal that I would make sure that every student in my room knew that I was a little bit crazy. Because, and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, why are you so into this? Why are you so into that? Why are you?" And I remember telling some of my students, my hope for you is that because the word nerdy came out.
It's called big brain.
It's okay.
Big brain.
And I just I take that and I accept that. I'm like, I majored in English. I'm fascinated with words. Like, these are things that are very interesting to me. And I know they're not interesting to everyone.
Yes.
But I told my students, what I wish for you is that someday you find something you are so passionate and interested about that you want to learn everything about it, so that when you talk to other people, they call you a nerd.
Yeah.
Because I think that is one of the greatest joys in life, is to be genuinely fascinated and curious about things, because then you learn so much and life is interesting. And not only that, I love to hear people talk about their passions and interests, what is fascinating to them. And even though I may not always understand it, like my younger brother went to Cal Poly Pomona, studied aerospace engineering, got his degree. Took him a long time, but he did. And he would talk to me about it. And I would understand part of it. And there'd be things that went way over my head. But how interested he was in it always just made it really pleasant to talk about and to listen to him. And I think that's something that is an asset when you're in a teaching position, to know, like, not everybody's. My goal was never to be like, I'm going to make a bunch of English teachers. The world doesn't need everyone to be an English teacher. But what I would love is to see people figure out their passions and let that kind of drive them to pursue something next that's going to be greater for them.
Why English, though?
Because words are so cool. Because they mean so many different things. You can take like a black and white series of patterns and you can create this whole vivid picture, but then that vivid picture is different in your mind than in my mind than in your mind.
So you're fascinated by the idea of words.
Yeah, by the idea, by the pictures they create, and the impact that they can have. I remember in college I took a class, rhetorical studies, which is studying persuasive writing. And we studied, at that time Barack Obama had been elected president. And I went to a school where people had very divided opinions about his politics, because I went to school in Idaho, and there's a lot of very conservative people in Idaho, and that's fine. But the professor said, we're going to study this speech and see how is he persuading people. And the language that he used for an election that was at that time very divisive.
Yeah.
And people had very strong opinions about the outcome of that election, whether that was good or bad. But the language that President Obama used in his inauguration speech was very much of unifying and coming together and recognizing that, different or not, we are all American and we have a goal of making our country a great place for everyone to be. And the power of those words was really just interesting to me. And so I was like, yeah, regardless of where you fall on the spectrum politically, words do have the power to persuade, to unite, and all these things. So that's why English specifically, because I was like, yes, words. 'Cause
Persuasive study sounds like the perfect lobbyist.
A perfect lobby.
Perfect lobbyist.
yeah, lobbyists tend to be very good at that, but also like law professors.
Law professors.
Yes.
And lawyers are really good about that. Actually, my cousin married someone who is now a doctor of rhetorical studies.
That's
so
awesome.
he, like, we don't get in arguments with him because
He's going to win all the time. That's funny.
He figured out the cheat code.
yeah,
Ever had an argument that he would win the arguments?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay. The one thing we'll argue about is
Yeah.
how we're arguing about him winning.
That's funny. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so then what would you say is the biggest difference from students here to students somewhere else that you've worked at?
I'm trying to think.
I'll start
Oh,
then.
go ahead.
I would
thinking.
say
Go ahead.
a lot of it is the sense of community. You know, everybody has some opinions about their hometown, and I've heard students like kind of like brag on Banning a little bit.
I hate
but
that.
when
That
it
drives me
really
crazy.
comes down to it,
I hate that.
But when it really comes down to it, the students here are really passionate about being there for their families, being there for each other, and being committed to making Banning a good place. And I think that is so beautiful because I see a lot of our very talented students here at Banning High School going out into the world, getting experience, getting education, whether that looks like college or career training or whatever, and coming back and feeding into this community to make it stronger. And there are a lot of high schools you go to where the senior class disperses and you know they just kind of go do whatever is good for them, which is fine, but they don't come back and feed back in. And that is something that I really see with students here in Banning that I have not seen everywhere that I've been teaching.
Yeah.
And we're talking a lot of kids come back, and I respect that. I'm going to ditto that because literally that's what makes us happy as teachers, seeing our kids come back and seeing the growth that they've made. They're young adults. We have some subs right now that at our high school that are graduates. You know, we have like our union president for our teachers union president is also a Banning graduate. We have a school board member that's a Banning graduate. So just people that don't leave, you know, like, I mean, we go to Los Angeles, like for, you know, whatever, visit people, family, museum, activity, whatever. We get tired of it. And when we come back to this area, it's peaceful. Like there's a sense of peace, and our kids are amazing. They love that. They love the nature around us. I've heard kids like ride horses and, fix their cars, just, go hiking in the canyons, like, or whether on the reservation or not. I mean, there's just so much the growth here. Like they don't leave, they stay here and they want to come back here. And so, and like Rachel had mentioned, like we have seen students come back and give to the community here, and especially our district as well. It's nice to see the kids in our community whenever we go shopping and things like that. So, yeah.
Well, what do you say would be the biggest misunderstood thing about credit recovery that you see from students?
I think the misunderstanding for right now, for me as a credit recovery teacher, I think that one of the biggest things is that students think that they only have one class, whatever's in front of them, when they really have more. They think they have all day to do it. They don't feel the pressure in finishing the class. I think that's the thing that really stresses us out, like as credit recovery teachers. We're like, I just talked to another teacher, she called me right before you, she's like, she's not showing up. Where's she at? You know, what do you want me to do? And I go, well, I'll text the mom. You know, I'll text the mom for you. You know, it's just that. And it's like we adopt them as our kids. Like, I'm going to nag you. Like, I am going to nag you and you're going to hate me until you have no more classes. And I'm going to be like, okay. But, you know, that's the thing that students don't realize, that the time is ticking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being a young adult, it's hard. You have really no concept of time or deadlines.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part. And one of the also biggest misconceptions, not just for credit recovery students, but overall our students this year, that any content area, a lot of our kids are failing when they're so close to passing. Like literally they're at 59%. And all that is like 2 assignments. Come on. Like pass with a D minus, you know, or a 60%. That's all you need. So when I ask students, I said, do you know what a passing grade is for your class? They don't answer. They don't know. So that our goal is to inform students, making sure they check their ARIES. I don't know how many kids don't check ARIES. You should be checking it like your bank account, like every week at least. And making sure teachers, because teachers make mistakes on assignments, getting them turned in, and then making sure the teacher credits you, because we have 160 students some of our teachers teach. And that one late assignment is going to affect your grade and from passing, and now you have to do summer school or credit recovery. Yes, so do your credit recovery. There's a deadline. And talk to your credit recovery teacher. What about you, Rachel?
So I don't teach credit recovery this year. I did teach a couple of sessions of in-person credit recovery last year. I think one of the misconceptions about credit recovery, like Ms. Mata said, is just understanding how to avoid it. With that, like, if I look at my grade and my grade's a 59 or a 69, I'm like, oh man. Understanding that's just a couple of assignments that could kind of push me over. And then just really kind of familiarizing yourself with your graduation requirements list. Really understanding like, oh, okay, so I only have 3 semesters of science. I'm going to need another semester. So understanding like that becomes really important when you're advocating for yourself which class you want to do first if you get into the situation where you're doing credit recovery.
Right.
Okay.
And I think the hardest thing is also what, like you kind of mentioned that, like I have students in sports that they get their passing grades for sports, like, and that's a quarter, and then they fail the rest of the semester. That I don't like. You know, because you got to do this, and high school is more than sports, and we got to think about our future beyond high school.
Yeah.
So even if you're not going to college, that's okay. I mean, but we want you to graduate. You have to have something in your back pocket. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of jobs are requiring a high school diploma, and that is the easiest way to do it. You know, without having the other stuff like having to pay rent, and you know, it's just.
Yeah.
I mean, right now is your time to do it, and so let's get it done.
Okay. I know.
We have to go.
I know,
Sorry,
I know.
it's okay.
Since we only have 10 minutes left,
Sure.
I'll ask one more serious question, and then we'll
Okay.
get into the fun ones.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
that's a
Oh,
fun
there's
one.
fun ones. Yes.
I want to ask the fun one.
Okay.
This
He
we
said
can't have
we.
that for.
He said, think of your words. He said we. Okay, go ahead. You know, when you interview teachers, especially English teachers, we will talk forever. So give us a little, give us a
Okay.
signal. We should have had a cutoff
keep an eye on
signal. Right. He's like, yep. Okay,
All right.
go ahead.
If you could change one thing about the education system, what would it be?
AI. Like, so to me, like, I know AI is the future.
Okay.
I think us as being older generation, I'm a veteran teacher, but like even the teachers, there's no open conversation of how to teach this for our students. Also, like, so technology is the future.
Yeah.
I would love to see more technology things here at our school.
Yeah.
I would also, my dream school would be to have more student cater to what they want to learn. I wouldn't have a bell system, you know, because
Yeah.
kind of like in college, you show up to class, you get your credit, right? I think students, you know, if they really care about their learning, they'll come.
Yeah.
And if we do a project-based learning for students, it's going to be interesting to them, and then us as English teachers and math teachers and history teachers, we're going to have to embed our stuff in what they want to know. So it's not just, I'm not going to teach you let's say Mesopotamia because you want to learn something about your culture. I'm going to bring in Mexican culture, history, and that's my job as a history teacher or a math teacher. I'm going to show you the math aspect of it. So things like that, project-based learning. I've seen some awesome units. AI is the tool to do that, I think.
It's hard to think of just one thing, but I think
the system.
our education
podcast.
system is far from perfect, but I think if I could change one thing about it, I think it would be focus. I believe that wherever we're at in the system, if the people in the system, particularly the adults in the system, because we kind of make the system, the students are in the system, but I think if everybody focuses on what is the outcome we want for students, and really just everything we're doing, all the money we're spending, all the actions we're taking, whether it's I'm a teacher in the classroom and I'm planning my lesson and I'm delivering it and I'm figuring out how to deal with a student who has said something that feels very disrespectful, or if I am planning for how we're going to spend the funds that we're entrusted with, what are the student outcomes we want, and doing our very best to try and make our efforts align to that. I think that everybody has really good intentions that comes into the education system, but sometimes there's so many things to focus on that if we're really looking at what is the highest need for right now for our students, that would be, I think, if there's only one thing, I think that would be the thing.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any unnecessary stuff in the high school system right now that doesn't need to be required?
Big question.
That's a question that could get somebody's job lost.
That's a part 2 podcast. Honestly, because there's like Rachel kind of to touch base on that. We were in the classroom. Now we moved from being in the classroom into more district. We're in the kind of the liaison, the middle man between the district and the teachers, and we see both sides. And so this has been an eye-opening position for us, what she said, the focus in my mind when I started this, I was like, oh my God, I want to do this, I want to do that. Next thing I know, it's well, no, you can't, because either funding or the focus, and I had to take a step back and relearn that. And I think, and that's she brought up a really good point, because that the focus is, we have to, it's not just my focus, it's just, we have to, there's other things that factor into that focus, and even though we might want those changes, they might not happen or be necessary, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
4 minutes.
then, yeah.
So here you go.
Okay, ready?
All right.
Oh, okay. Here comes
What's a
the-
hobby or passion you have outside of teaching?
Actually, I just like being with my family. I love being at home, hanging out. I actually have my own home. It was a struggle to get my own home, and so I think not having something to call my own, and now finally having a home, I love it. Rachel?
So 2 of the things I really like to do, I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, which is what my husband doesn't understand, but he supports. But then also, a few years ago, I started picking up the ukulele. My grandpa played the ukulele. My sister started playing the ukulele, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, 4 strings, 4 fingers, easier than guitar. Okay, I can do it." And so, every once in a while, I'll break out the ukulele and start playing and singing.
If you could master any skill at all on the planet, if you could master it instantly, what would it be?
Go ahead, you go first. I'm gonna think about this one.
That's rough. One skill. Right now it would probably be instantly learning German. That's a goal of mine that I have. If I instantly could be able to perfectly speak and understand German, that'd be really awesome, because one day I'd like to travel to Austria and Germany.
What word would you want to know right now?
I don't know. Here's the thing about German. They have like really long compound words that you don't know what they are
Yeah.
until you hear
Yeah,
them. And
even
so
I speak. I'm not fluent German.
What's a
but-
German word? Say one that's clean.
See, that's the issue. So German has it depends on what kind of German you want, because German has rural, it has more exotic, because German has a lot of, like how you see here, English dialects and how they
Yes.
sound really fancy and weird.
Yes.
Germans like that. So to say, I want to know the word for yes, well, there's about 15 different ones.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I
And
didn't
it
know
all
that.
depends on who you're talking to, when you're talking to them, what
Wow.
gender they are, how
Yeah.
old they are, who
Yeah.
are they to you.
That's
That-
cool.
it's a complex language.
It is.
A cool word is like Schadenfreude.
My favorite word in German is Auf Wiedersehen, which means goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
I
Auf
learned
Wiedersehen.
that from
Auf
Project
Auf
One
Wiedersehen.
Way.
Auf Wiedersehen. Danke. Auf Wiedersehen and Danke are universal.
Yeah,
Danke
yeah,
means
danke,
thank you, and Auf Wiedersehen means goodbye.
Yes. Oh yeah. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
So I think my skill would be cooking, and I'm not talking about just regular cooking, but
Start a
like
cooking show.
just like a chef type, gourmet type, just trying to expand my skills in cooking. I cook more like American dinners and Mexican dinners, but I would like to explore that. I think my son, who's 26, he watches YouTube channels and he creates his meal preps for the week. And him and his and they cook Thanksgiving dinner for us. So I see that and it inspired me. And I'm like, you know what? I think we need to do like a cooking thing, so improving the cooking. So, but that's my
That's all the time we have.
It is?
Yep.
One more. One more.
One more? Okay.
One more.
We got, yeah, it's 5 minutes till the bell, but we got one more.
That's
We'll
okay,
do one
yes.
more.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to pick a good one on here. All right, I'm going to ask this very simply. Morning or night?
Morning.
Why?
I love sunrises.
That's
It's like a
that's so
promise
weird.
of a new day. It's fresh. I love seeing the sunrise. I drive to the beach and watch the sunrise or go out to the desert.
Yeah,
It's
most
beautiful.
no life thing I'm ever gonna say. I hate sunrise. It looks so pretty, but it reminds me. Oh, I gotta do everything.
Did you go to the senior sunrise?
I did not.
Oh, you guys, it was
I wish I
so
did.
beautiful.
I wish I did. They
It
had
was-
a-
that's
they had a
something
little
I
picnic
highly
thing.
recommend.
What is that?
They had a little picnic thing where they watched the sunrise. It was a really good sunrise.
It
too.
was a beautiful
It was a really good one.
sunrise. It was cold and dark when we got here, and everybody was snuggled in their blankets.
Yeah.
And the sun really crested over, and it's just it has a more
Yeah,
metaphorical
I saw a
meaning.
picture of it. It looked like one of those like outdoor theaters. I
It was
think.
beautiful.
It was
yes.
really good.
So go ahead.
Night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I cannot stay up late anymore.
That's so
Yeah.
real.
You don't even I'm talking like 9 o'clock. I'm like tired and ready to go into my bed.
Like,
But
me and Johnny used
nighttime
to-
is when I get to go back to my bed, which is the best place in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And nighttime is also when I get to be with my husband and my family.
Yeah.
And so that's night.
Yeah, me and Johnny understand that perfectly. We used to stay up all night playing
Yeah.
games, talking to each other, and now I can't stay up past 11.
Oh, God.
I
Okay.
remember when that was so early.
You remember when
I
2
backed
a.m.
off
was
all of a
early
sudden.
sleep?
I know, right?
Remember when you could sleep at 2 a.m. and get the recommended hours?
Yeah, for me, it was 3 a.m.
Like like when I fall asleep now, I'm like super tired in the morning. But when I fell asleep before, I was ready the whole day. But now I can't physically stay up. Like I try.
Welcome to adulthood.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's adulting.
I have
right?
responsibility.
Yes, responsibility.
Alright,
I'm
well,
telling you.
that's actually all the time we have. Officially, we must
Auf
stop.
Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
For the very last question that
Okay.
we'll be asking every guest.
Yes.
Okay.
What does it mean to you to build a Bronco?
I think when I think about building a Bronco, I think about the impact I have as a teacher, as a mentor to my students, or it doesn't even have to be my student, anybody that walks in my door or I approach, whether it's a hello, just building that positivity with them. And, it's just, it's like teaching, it's a very important task that I value and I treasure, and it's the best reward of my life. And I think I want my kids, or I say my kids all the time, and my kids even get jealous of you guys. And so they're like, you care more about, but it's because I love you guys, and I want the best for you.
Yeah.
And so I could talk forever about you guys. So go ahead. I'm gonna start crying. I'm gonna cry.
To me, to build a Bronco, because of the role I have, means to support students, and then also to advocate for continually trying to make the system that we have here in Banning a system where students can be successful and more successful than they were able to be in the past.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we love you guys, man.
Those
We
are
love
some-
you guys.
It's weird because at the first podcast it was a simple and profound, like perfect length question, like answer to the question.
Yeah.
For the second episode, it was really long but really funny, and this one was really short but really powerful.
Yeah.
Like it's a really different dynamic all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, our teachers here, they love you guys. I mean, they all the teachers in Banning.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've been in classrooms and things like that. They honestly, genuinely care about you guys.
Yeah.
And it's hard to teach here, but you know what? We're here, and we come every day for you.
And that's why I'm doing this.
yes,
So that
yes,
other
yes.
students can also see they are humans. And
Yes.
even if the middle schoolers are going to end up seeing this at some point.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm a music guy. I'm in band. I make music on my own. He knows that,
Yes.
and it's really fascinating watching my band director get here every day because I'm like, oh, he cares, and I feel like a lot of kids don't understand that the teachers really do care.
They do.
Because it feels like a lot of the kids, like in the middle schools and elementary schools, before you get there, like I felt like this. I was like, oh no, the teachers are going to be horrible. Like they're going to be really mean, really strict.
Right.
And then I come into high school, they're like, oh, just sit wherever you want. Oh, okay. Oh, freedom.
They're like freedom. And you know what's funny is when I was at middle school, I always, because I taught summer school at for here at Banning High.
Yeah.
And when I was at middle school at Nicollet, like I taught 8th graders, I'd always tell them, like, don't worry, high school's better. And so now that I'm here, I see them like, didn't I tell you? They're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
so much better.
Well, we have
Okay.
no more time left. No
Yeah,
more.
yeah,
No
yeah.
more.
Thank you, Johnny.
No more, no more,
Thank
no
you,
more, no
Johnny,
more.
for offering us
Yeah.
this opportunity to share
Thanks.
Pleasure's all
our
ours.
stories.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. What is this, episode 5, 6? I think I'm right.
7,
I'll put
5,
it in
6.
post editing if it's wrong.
Why don't you say episode 5, episode 6, and then
Oh, that's smart. That's smart. That's smart. Do it right now. Do it right now. Do it right now. Quickly.
Episode 5, episode 6.
Okay. All right. That's. Thank you.
Watch
both
it,
you guys for
seven.
coming. It's a pleasure for you guys to come.
Thank you. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Adios. Thank you. That was
a perfect
awesome.
hour.